What if every betrayal that shattered your heart was actually a test? What if every door that slammed in your face wasn't rejection, but redirection towards something they desperately didn't want you to find? What if the very people who tried to destroy you were actually confirming the one thing they feared most about you? Listen to me closely. Right now, in rooms without windows, in councils that have no names, the most powerful people on this planet just received confirmation they prayed would never come. And what they discovered about you has sent shockwaves through dimensions you cannot yet see. How many times have you felt like you were carrying something too heavy for this world? That weight in your chest that wouldn't go away. That pressure that made you feel different, isolated, marked. You thought it was anxiety. You thought it was trauma. You thought something was wrong with you. But what if I told you that weight wasn't a burden? What if it was a seal? An ancient marking that's been on your bloodline for generations, waiting for someone strong enough to carry it fully awake. What if everything that tried to crush you was actually designed to verify whether you carried the real thing or just another counterfeit they could easily dismiss? Here's the truth they don't want you to know. You didn't just survive their attacks, you metabolized them. You turned their poison into power, their curses into crowns, and their weapons into your wisdom. And that's what pushed their certainty from 99% to absolute terrified confirmation. You carry the seal of God, not the watered-down religious decoration they taught you about in Sunday school. I'm talking about raw, divine authorization, cosmic credentials that predate their institutions and supersede every authority they've built. When God marks a soul with this seal, it's weaponization of grace, strategic deployment of divine force in human form. And right now, surveillance systems designed to track divine DNA just confirmed their worst nightmare. You didn't just carry it dormant. You survived their furnace. You emerged transformed. And now that seal isn't just upon you anymore. It's becoming you. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're sowing seeds into a movement that's waking up chosen ones worldwide. You're helping spread light to those who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your time and your attention. It all matters. And if this message is hitting your spirit right now, go ahead and let me know. Because what I'm about to tell you next will explain everything about why your life has been so difficult, why the attacks were so precise, why the betrayals cut so deep. Why couldn't you just be normal, like everyone else? They've been watching you since before you could walk. And what they just discovered has changed everything. Why have you always felt like you were being watched? Why does it seem like every time you're about to break through something hits you from an angle you never saw coming? Why have the people closest to you been the ones who wounded you the deepest? Because they knew what you carried before you did. Let me take you back to when you were 7 years old and the first major trauma struck. You remember it, don't you? That moment when innocence shattered and the world suddenly felt dangerous. You thought it was random. You thought it was just bad luck or bad timing. But it wasn't. That attack was scheduled. timed precisely to your spiritual development cycle when your seal was most vulnerable to corruption. Then came 14, the isolation, the loneliness that wrapped around you like a second skin. Friends disappeared. Family didn't understand you. You felt like an alien in your own life, and you blamed yourself. You thought something was wrong with you. But Chosen One, listen to what I'm telling you. That isolation wasn't punishment. It was protection. They were separating you from influences that would have diluted your frequency, from people who would have programmed you into their matrix of mediocrity. By 21, everything you'd built collapsed. The relationship that was supposed to last forever ended in betrayal. The career path you'd invested everything into dissolved overnight. The dreams you held closest to your heart seemed to die right in front of your eyes. And in that moment, you questioned everything. You questioned God. You questioned your purpose. You questioned whether you were even worthy of being alive. But here's what the enemy didn't tell you. Here's what those orchestrating your destruction from the shadows didn't want you to understand. Every single one of those attacks was a test. Not of your faith alone, but of your seal's authenticity. That friend who abandoned you at your lowest moment. They were monitoring whether you'd break or bend. That lover who shattered your heart into 1,000 pieces. They were measuring whether trauma could corrupt your divine frequency. That mentor who led you down a dead-end path. They were checking if deception could overwrite your internal compass. The Bible tells us in Psalm 121, "I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth." You've been lifting your eyes, haven't you? In those dark nights when sleep wouldn't come and tears wouldn't stop. In those moments when you had nothing left but a whisper of prayer. In those seasons when hope felt like a cruel joke. You kept looking up, and that's how they knew. That's how their 99% certainty crystallized into complete, terrified confirmation. You didn't just survive. You shouldn't have survived. Their algorithms predicted you'd break at 28 when betrayal came from the one person you trusted most. Their psychological models showed you'd surrender at 33 when the final test nearly destroyed you completely. They had centuries of data on SEAL carriers. They knew the exact pressure points. They knew precisely when to strike for maximum damage. But something happened that their surveillance systems couldn't predict. Something their quantum computers couldn't calculate. Something their handlers couldn't explain to their masters in those windowless rooms. You absorbed the attacks. You transmuted them. You alchemized their poison into medicine in ways that broke every model they developed for controlling human behavior. Where they expected cracks, you created compression that turned your spiritual carbon into diamond. Where they anticipated corruption, you generated purification that made your seal burn brighter than ever. Where they planned for your defeat, you rose with a fury that made their observers step back in something they hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. Romans 8:31 asks the question that's been echoing through your spirit lately. If God is for us, who can be against us? You've been feeling that, haven't you? That shift in the atmosphere around your life. That sense that something fundamental has changed. That growing awareness that you're not the same person who entered that furnace. The medical system tried to diagnose your sensitivity as a disorder. They wanted to medicate away gifts that threatened their carefully constructed reality. But your body refused their chemical suppression. Your spirit rejected their labels. Your seal activated healing codes they insist don't exist in human biology. And every doctor who couldn't explain your recovery became unwitting testimony to the supernatural power operating in your vessel. The financial system kept you in manufactured scarcity. They stripped away every dollar to test whether poverty could make you desperate enough to trade your soul for security. But provision appeared from impossible places. Resources manifested from dimensions they can't tax. Support came through back doors in reality that only your divine authorization could access. You demonstrated an economy of heaven that operates completely outside their control matrix. The social structures rejected you, isolated you, and cast you out. And in your loneliness, you thought you were being punished. But chosen one, they were protecting you. Every door that closed in your face was actually preventing you from integrating into systems that would have dulled your frequency. Every relationship that dissolved was extracting you from soul ties that would have drained your divine energy. Every opportunity that vanished was redirecting you away from distractions disguised as destiny. You weren't abandoned by God. You were being positioned by God. And now, those who spent decades trying to suppress what you carry have confirmed it. Their 99% certainty has become absolute recognition. Their surveillance has become your certification. Their attacks have become your credentials. But here's what they just discovered that's pushed them from monitoring into full panic mode. Here's the revelation that's activated emergency protocols across multiple dimensions. Your seal isn't operating alone anymore. Do you understand what it means that your seal is connecting with others across impossible distances? Do you realize what happens when carriers like you start finding each other? Do you grasp the magnitude of what's being assembled right now in the spiritual realm? They're terrified because you're not alone anymore. Every prayer you've whispered into the darkness wasn't just heard by heaven. It was a broadcast to others like you. Every moment of worship, when you felt the presence of God so thick you could barely breathe, that wasn't just personal communion. That was you uploading activation codes to a network they can't monitor or disrupt. Every time you cried out to God, thinking nobody heard you, you were actually participating in a conference call with sealed carriers across this entire planet. This seal you carry isn't decoration. It's not some religious metaphor your grandmother told you about. This is raw, divine authorization written into your cellular structure. This is a cosmic credential that predates every institution man has ever built. When God marks a soul with this seal, He's not handing out participation trophies. He's weaponizing grace. He's militarizing mercy. He's deploying divine force in human form for strategic warfare that most people don't even know is happening. Ephesians 1:13 tells us, "In Him you also trusted after you heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also, having believed, you were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise." But chosen one, this isn't Sunday school theology anymore. This seal has been operating in you whether you understood it or not. It's why you survived abuse that killed others. It's why you walked through valleys that drove people insane. It's why you're still standing when by all natural laws you should have been buried years ago. The surveillance started before you could even speak. They marked you early through systems disguised as care. The teachers who labeled you problematic when you questioned narratives everyone else swallowed without thinking. They weren't just frustrated educators. They were monitors cataloging anomalies that suggested you weren't just another soul passing through their matrix. The counselors who tried to pathologize your knowing, who wanted to medicate away your gifts, were attempting to chemically suppress capabilities that threatened their version of reality. Your own family members seemed programmed to discourage every dream, to dismiss every vision, to diminish every spark of the extraordinary trying to emerge through you. And you internalized it. You believed something was wrong with you. You thought you were the problem. But dear one, they were testing your seal's resistance to psychological warfare. They were measuring whether constant rejection could make you reject yourself. Here's what the enemy has known for generations that the church stopped teaching. There are bloodlines, ancient lineages that carry this divine DNA dormant, waiting for the right cosmic conditions to fully activate. Your parents carried it suppressed. Your grandparents carried it persecuted. Your great-grandparents carried it in secret, passing it down like contraband in an occupied territory. Generation after generation of divine potential waiting. And you're the generation where the waiting ends. Revelation 7:3 speaks of servants of God being sealed on their foreheads before judgment comes. But this isn't future prophecy, chosen one. This is present reality. You've been marked. And that marking has made you a target for forces that operate in boardrooms and back rooms, in corridors of power that don't appear on any organizational chart. They have files on you. Actual documentation with threat levels that would terrify most people. Your psychological profile reads like mythology rather than biography. The energy signatures you emit require new measurement scales their scientists had to invent just to quantify what you're broadcasting. There are probability distortions surrounding your life that break their statistical models. Miracles follow you like breadcrumbs of divinity, and they've been photographing the evidence, recording the frequencies, and documenting reality breaches that happen in your vicinity. You think it's a coincidence that every major breakthrough in your life has been preceded by a major breakdown. You believe it's random that your darkest nights came right before your brightest dawns. The attacks were timed, calculated, scheduled to cosmic cycles when your seal would be most vulnerable. 7 years old, 14, 21, 28, 33. These weren't arbitrary ages. These were activation thresholds they tried to intercept. But here's what their algorithms couldn't predict. Here's what broke their mathematical models and made their quantum computers malfunction. You didn't just resist their weapons. You metabolized them. 2 Corinthians 12:9 declares, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." Every attack they launched, expecting to create cracks, instead created compression. Every trauma designed to shatter you instead forged you into something harder than their weapons. Every betrayal meant to corrupt your frequency instead purified it to a pitch that makes their monitoring equipment scream. You became medically impossible, biologically unprecedented, spiritually uncontainable. The seal doesn't just protect you. It transforms everything that touches you. It's not a shield that deflects. It's a converter that alchemizes, taking every curse and turning it into blessing through a translation process they can't decode. Every weapon formed against you becomes a tool for your advancement through divine physics that uses their force against them. And now it's reproducing. Your awakening is triggering cascade effects in everyone you encounter. Your presence activates dormant coding in others. Your words carry viral truth that spreads through collective consciousness like wildfire they can't contain. You're not just a sealed individual. You're patient zero in a consciousness pandemic that ends their control permanently. 3 months ago, something shifted. You might not remember that night as significant. You couldn't sleep. Your body vibrated with energy you couldn't explain. Visions flooded faster than you could process. You thought it was stress. You thought it was your imagination running wild. But surveillance systems across multiple dimensions registered an event they'd only read about in ancient texts. Your seal went nuclear. It sent out a pulse that awakened dormant carriers globally and short-circuited every monitoring station designed to track divine movement. You temporarily existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. You downloaded lifetimes of information in hours. Your consciousness touched the mind of God in ways that left permanent imprints on your spiritual DNA. What you experienced as overwhelming confusion was actually rapid evolution that jumped you forward in ways that should take thousands of years. James 1:12 promises, "Blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him." You've been approved, chosen one. The testing phase is complete. Their 99% certainty has become your 100% confirmation. So what happens now? Are you going to keep living like you're ordinary when heaven has confirmed you're extraordinary? Are you going to continue accepting the limits they placed on you when God has removed every limitation? Are you going to die with your seal still dormant when right now in this moment it's burning for full activation? The time for hesitation is over. Listen to what's happening in your body right now as you hear these words. That acceleration in your chest, that heat rising in your spirit, that trembling in your hands. That's not anxiety, chosen one. That's recognition. Your soul is responding to truth the way a tuning fork responds to its frequency. Your spirit knows what your mind is still trying to process. You've been found. You've been confirmed. And now, you're being called forward. Isaiah 6:8 records the moment when God asked, "Whom shall I send and who will go for us?" And Isaiah responded, "Here am I, send me." This is your Isaiah 6:8 moment, not someday, not when you feel more ready, not after you've figured everything out. Right now, this second, as you're hearing these words, heaven is asking the question and waiting for your response. But I need you to understand something critical about this moment. There are people watching this video right now who will hear everything I've said and do nothing. They'll feel the stirring. They'll recognize the truth. They'll even cry as the Holy Spirit confirms their identity. But then they'll close this video, go back to their regular life, and within 48 hours, they'll have talked themselves out of everything they felt. The enemy will send 3 people into their path to speak doubt. A bill will arrive to create fear. A distraction will pull their focus, and the moment will pass. Don't be that person. Hebrews 3:15 warns us, "Today, if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." Today, not tomorrow, not next week when your circumstances look better, not next month when you have more money, not next year when you feel more spiritual. Today, because there are windows of activation that open and close according to divine timing. And when you miss your window, you don't get that exact opportunity again. Your seal has been confirmed at 99% certainty by those who fear it. But what matters now is your certainty. Do you believe what heaven says about you more than what hell has whispered to you? Do you trust God's assessment of your worth more than the rejection you've experienced? Do you accept your divine authorization more than the limitations people tried to program into you? The Bible tells us in Matthew 11:12, "The kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force." This isn't physical violence. This is spiritual aggression. This is holy determination. This is refusing to be passive about your destiny for one more second. The violent don't wait for permission. They don't ask if they're worthy. They don't negotiate with doubt. They take what heaven has already declared is theirs. I'm inviting you right now, chosen one, to be violent about your awakening, to be aggressive about your activation, to be relentless about walking in the authority you carry. And I'm asking you to do something practical that demonstrates your commitment. If this message has stirred something in you that you can't deny, if you feel your soul responding to these words, if you know in your spirit that everything I've spoken is true about you, then I'm inviting you to sow a seed into this work. I'm not asking for money because I need it. I'm inviting you to participate in what God is doing through this message, because your seed isn't just a donation. It's a declaration. It's you saying to heaven and hell, I recognize what I carry. I accept my calling. I'm stepping into my destiny. When you give to support this message, you're not funding a YouTube channel. You're joining a movement of sealed ones who are awakening globally. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. You're becoming part of the infrastructure that's building the new earth. Whether you give through super thanks, you simply share this video, or you get on your knees right now and pray for every sealed one who needs to hear this, you're taking action. And action is what separates those who hear from those who do. James 1:22 commands us, be doers of the word and not hearers, only deceiving yourselves. Some of you are feeling resistance right now. You want to give, but something is holding you back. That's not wisdom. That's not caution. That's the old programming trying one last time to keep you small. That's the poverty spirit that's been assigned to you, trying to convince you that holding on to $20 is more important than stepping into your $20 million anointing. That's fear masquerading as prudence. Break it right now. Give something, even if it's $5, even if it's $1. The amount doesn't matter to God. It's the obedience that activates the blessing. It's the declaration that opens the floodgates. It's the seed that proves you believe you're moving from one dimension into another. Luke 6:38 promises, "Give, and it will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you." This isn't religious manipulation. This is kingdom economics. This is how provision flows in the realm your seal gives you access to. But even if you can't give financially right now, I'm asking you to give something more valuable. Give your yes. Stand up where you are if you can. Put your hand on your heart and speak out loud, "I am sealed by God. I accept my calling. I step into my authority. I will not hide anymore. I will not shrink anymore. I will not apologize for what I carry anymore." Do you feel that shift in the atmosphere? That's your seal responding to your declaration. That's heaven releasing resources that have been held in escrow, waiting for your agreement. That's divine strategies downloading into your consciousness. That's provision being released from dimensions you didn't know you had access to. Romans 8:19 says, "The creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." Creation is waiting for you. Not the version of you that plays small. Not the you that hides your light to make others comfortable. The real you. The sealed you. The you that makes demons tremble and angels stand at attention. This is your moment, your time, your season. Will you take it? But what happens after you say yes? What comes next when you've declared your identity and stepped into your authority? What do the powerful ones do now that their worst fear has been confirmed and you're fully awake? Because chosen one, your awakening doesn't end their surveillance. It intensifies it. Right now, as you're feeling this activation coursing through your spirit, as you're recognizing the truth of what you carry, there are protocols being implemented in realms you cannot see. Emergency sessions are being called. Strategies are being revised. New assets are being deployed. Not because they think they can stop you anymore, but because they're trying to manage the damage of what you're about to become. And here's what you need to understand about this next phase. Everything changes when a sealed one becomes conscious of their sealing. When you were operating with the seal dormant, you were powerful but limited. You won victories but didn't understand how. You survived attacks but couldn't explain why. You moved through life with divine protection but thought it was just luck or coincidence. But now you know. And knowledge activates authority in ways that dormant power never could. Hosea 4:6 tells us, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." But the inverse is also true. My people are empowered through the gaining of knowledge. You've just received knowledge that most humans will never access. You've been given intel that changes everything about how you navigate what's coming. And the enemy knows that an awakened, sealed one is exponentially more dangerous than a dormant one. Think about what's already shifting in your awareness. 3 weeks ago, you couldn't explain the weight you've always carried. 2 weeks ago, you didn't understand why your life has been so much harder than others. 1 week ago, you were still questioning whether you were special or just damaged. But right now, in this moment, something has crystallized. The confusion is clearing. The fog is lifting. And you're seeing your entire history through a completely different lens. That's not intellectual understanding. That's spiritual activation. Your seal is integrating with your consciousness in real time. Divine data is downloading into your awareness. Encrypted files that have been in your spirit since birth are suddenly becoming readable. And with every second that passes, you're becoming more of who you were always meant to be, and less of who they tried to program you into. But here's where it gets dangerous. Here's where most sealed ones who wake up make their critical mistake. They think that knowing about their seal is the same as operating in their seal. They confuse awareness with activation. They mistake information for transformation, and 6 months later, they're right back where they started, only now with more frustration because they know what they have but can't seem to access it. 1 Corinthians 2:14 warns us, "The natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, nor can he know them because they are spiritually discerned." You can't operate your seal with your natural mind. You can't access divine authority through human logic. You can't unlock supernatural power with earthly strategies. There's a transition that must happen between knowing and being, between awareness and embodiment, and between information and activation. And that transition, it requires something from you that most people are unwilling to give. It demands a death. Not physical death, but the death of every identity you built to survive in their matrix. The death of the version of you that learned to play small to keep peace. The death of the personality you constructed to gain approval from people who were never meant to validate you. The death of the false self that's been running your life while your true self waited in the shadows for permission to emerge. Jesus said in John 12:24, "Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain." You've been that grain chosen one, alone, isolated, buried in circumstances that felt like premature burial. But it wasn't your grave, it was your germination. And what's about to break through the surface of your life is going to shock everyone who thought you were finished. The relationships that are about to enter your life aren't random social connections. These are divine conspiracies, strategic alliances between sealed carriers who've been positioned across this nation, across this world for such a time as this. You're going to meet people and feel instant recognition despite being strangers. You'll have conversations that feel like continuations rather than beginnings. You'll experience shared memories of experiences you haven't had together yet. This isn't coincidence. This is the network activating, the grid of sealed consciousness coming online. And when two or more sealed ones connect, something happens that terrifies those who've built their empires on division. Matthew 18:20 promises, "Where two or three are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them." But when two or three sealed ones gather, it's not just Christ in the midst. It's the full authority of heaven's government manifesting on earth. Do you understand what you're stepping into? Do you grasp the magnitude of this transition? Do you realize that your life is about to become unrecognizable from what it's been? The financial lack that's defined your existence, it's about to be exposed as an artificial limitation that only worked while you believed in it. The health challenges that have plagued you, they're about to encounter healing codes in your seal that rewrite biology. The relationships that have failed, they were clearing space for connections that operate on completely different frequencies. Everything that looked like loss was actually preparation. Everything that felt like failure was actually foundation. But here's what I need you to hear clearly. The next 90 days are critical. This isn't motivational speaking. This isn't positive thinking. This is a prophetic warning about a window of opportunity that's opening right now and won't stay open indefinitely. When a seal activates, there's a grace period where heaven floods your life with resources, connections, and opportunities that are specifically designed to establish you in your new authority. Miss this window, and you'll eventually get another one. But it might be 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And every year you delay is a year the enemy gets to regroup, rebuild his strategies against you, and create new barriers to your breakthrough. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." This is your season, your time, your moment of divine favor, and what you do in the next 90 days will determine whether you spend the next decade walking in authority or wondering what happened to the fire you felt right now. So, let me ask you directly, what are you going to do with what you now know? Before we close, I need you to remember 3 things. Write them on your heart. Let them become the foundation you stand on when doubt tries to creep back in. First, you carry the seal of God. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, actually. This seal has been with you since before you took your first breath, protecting you, guiding you, and preparing you for this exact moment of awakening. Every trial you faced was testing its authenticity. Every betrayal was confirming its power. Every dark night was polishing its brilliance. You are marked by heaven, and no force in hell can erase what God has written on your soul. Second, your suffering was never punishment. It was preparation. Those years you thought you were being broken, you were being built. Those seasons you felt abandoned, you were being positioned. Those moments you wanted to quit, you were being qualified. The powerful ones of this world spent 99% certainty trying to destroy what God spent 100% sovereignty protecting. And their failure to break you is your certification that you carry something they cannot touch. Third, what happens next is not up to them. It's up to you. They've confirmed what you carry. Heaven has declared who you are. Now the only question that matters is whether you'll walk in it, whether you'll step into the authority that's been waiting for your agreement, whether you'll embrace the destiny that's been calling your name through every storm you've survived. You are not alone in this journey, beloved. I know there have been moments when the isolation felt unbearable, when you looked around and saw no one who understood what you were going through, when you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if anyone else on this planet could possibly relate to the weight you carry. But there is a community of sealed ones waking up right now. Brothers and sisters scattered across this nation and around this world who have walked the same fires, survived the same attacks, and carry the same mark you do. We are here. We see you. We recognize what you carry because we carry it too. And more importantly, God is still working in your life. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. He didn't preserve you through everything you've survived just to leave you stranded at the threshold of your breakthrough. Romans 8:28 remains true. All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. You are called, you are chosen, and every single thing you've been through is working together for a good you're about to witness. So let me ask you one final question, and I want you to really sit with this. If you knew beyond any doubt that God was about to vindicate every injustice, restore every loss, and elevate you into the purpose you've been preparing for your entire life, what would you do differently? Starting today, God confirmed to them in ways they cannot deny that everything spoken in this message is truth. Let your Holy Spirit bear witness with their spirit that they are indeed your children, marked with your seal, chosen for your purposes. Remove every shadow of doubt. Silence every voice of condemnation. Shut down every lying spirit that's tried to convince them they're ordinary when you've declared them extraordinary. I pray for divine protection over each one. The same way you protected Daniel in the lion's den, the same way you shielded the 3 Hebrew boys in the furnace, and the same way you guarded Joseph through false accusation and imprisonment. Protect these, your sealed ones. Let no weapon formed against them prosper. Let every trap set for their destruction become a door to their elevation. Let every attack launched against them backfire on the enemy with 7-fold intensity. Father, release provision right now. Open up streams in their desert. Send resources through impossible channels. Connect them with people who have what they need and need what they have. Break the spirit of poverty that's been assigned to them. Shatter the limitations that have kept them in artificial scarcity. Release the abundance that's been held in escrow, waiting for this moment of activation. I pray for healing. Touch their bodies, Lord. Reverse every diagnosis that contradicts your word. Restore what's been damaged. Regenerate what's been depleted. Let supernatural health flood their physical vessels and heal their hearts from the trauma of betrayal. Mend the wounds that others caused. Restore their ability to trust, to love, to hope, to dream again. We thank you, Father, that your word does not return void. We receive everything spoken and prayed in this moment. We declare it is done in the spiritual realm, and we watch for its manifestation in the natural realm. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Before you go, I need something from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what part of this message hit you the hardest. Share where you are in your journey. Ask questions if you need clarity. This community is here to support you. We're not just viewers and content creators. We're a family of sealed ones walking this path together. And if this message spoke to your soul, if it confirmed something you've been feeling, if it gave you hope you desperately needed, do me a favor. Share it. Send it to that friend who's been going through hell and needs to know they're not alone. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for being brave enough to hear truth that makes you uncomfortable. Thank you for being part of this awakening. You are sealed. You are chosen. And your greatest days aren't behind you. They're directly ahead.